President Muhammadu Buhari has assured the National Human Rights Commission of his continuous support in efforts to get closer to the people and assuage their grievances. At a meeting with the Commission's Governing Council, Buhari praised efforts in dealing with human rights issues in the country, promising not to relent in the support for justice and fairness.
Some of the major challenges confronting our nation today that have human rights implications include terrorist insurgency, ethnic agitations, kidnapping, banditry, drug abuse, youth unemployment, and cultism and bullying in schools. Added to this are traditional human rights challenges of poverty, access to education, healthcare, and other social services, gender and other forms of inequalities, and human rights violations associated with law enforcement and access to justice. Mr. President, sir, these challenges have made the existence and the mandate of the Commission in Nigeria today ever important and strategic. It is with this sense of responsibility that we come before you today, first to appreciate Your Excellency for deeming us fit to direct the affairs of such an important institution and for the support that the Commission has been receiving under your leadership.
The composition of your committee is very interesting. It covers the whole spectrum of governance, and this is very interesting. So, how I wish people will understand and appreciate the Commission and pass the representations through you, so that I will have less hectic time in government. I'm very pleased that we have the facilities throughout the country. This is very good. I'm very pleased with the way you approach it and the way you make sure that you are on the ground in every state. The composition, as I mentioned, is all right. Human Rights Commission funding. We'll try and see which minister is supposed to be working with you and find out within our limited resources what we can honestly do for you.
The President there, Muhammadu Buhari. To discuss these developments, we're now joined by Tony Ojukwu, the Executive Secretary of the National Human Rights Commission, as well as Frank Tietie, a rights activist and a rights analyst as well. Thank you, gentlemen, for being on the program with us. All right, let me start with you, Tony. And starting from where the President left off, how significant is the President's assurances of his continuous support of the Commission and its efforts? What more would you want the government to do?
Actually, what I want the government to do.
Exactly.
That's a very interesting question. The President has assured us that they will take all reasonable steps to assist us in our work. What can be more than a presidential assurance? I mean, that is the highest assurance you can get. So I'm totally satisfied with the response the President has given us. We had shared our areas of challenges with Mr. President, that we need to be able to defend effectively the right of Nigerians in all parts of the country, because we have presence in the 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory. Of course, this entails a lot of infrastructure in place to investigate complaints on human rights violations. This entails a lot of personnel, high caliber personnel, to be able to put programmatic activities in place to deal with common issues like domestic violence that goes on in the communities, sexual and gender-based violence, unlawful detention and arrest, and things like that which bother people at the village level. And also, of course, we also have to be able to make sure that there is accountability for human rights violation. We have to make sure that people are aware of their rights. So this involves a lot of advocacy, a lot of campaign, working at the local level, in the local government areas, in the communities, town hall meetings, because like we said, education is key to protection of your rights. If you don't know about your rights, in the first place, if your rights are violated, you won't even know. So the first thing we are working on is creating awareness so that people know their rights. Then secondly, we are also working on the knowledge that if you know your rights and you cannot handle the protection yourself, you should be able to know who you can run to. You can run to the commission, you can run to CSOs, and eventually this will also come to the commission. So the knowledge to know where to go and get assistance is also key. So these are fundamental things we think we have to be able to empower the people, and the president has assured us he's going to assist us, and we believe him.
All right, great. Let me bring in Frank Tietie, who is in our off-site studio. Frank, you heard the president there saying he will provide all the support that the Human Rights Commission needs. Last year, 2020, the NBA raised an alarm saying that the violation of human rights has become a culture in Nigeria, and pointing accusing fingers directly at this administration. But how would you rate the performance of this administration so far as human rights is concerned? And in what areas would you say that those rights are really being violated in Nigeria?
Well, thank you very much. Civil and political rights are terribly violated in our country by law enforcement agents. It's going to be very difficult to directly now hold President Muhammadu Buhari for the violations, whereas the actual violations come from those who are saddled with the responsibility of protecting the rights of Nigerians, that is law enforcement community, particularly the police and other law enforcement agencies, Department of State Services, and a whole lot of them who refuse to obey court orders and comply with human rights standards to which Nigeria has agreed to implement as part of its obligations to the international community. Now, but we've seen a president that has supported human rights to the extent that he endorsed the 5 for 5 request by the NSAS protesters. We've also seen the president that established a panel, the Tony Ojukwu-led panel, that for the purpose of reforming, for carrying out police reforms. The recommendations have been made to the presidency. We're expecting the white paper. But this administration cannot be excused from not properly funding human rights. He has pledged the support now, but for those of us in the civil society community, we think that that support is coming too late. We see a National Human Rights Commission in a country that does not have proper human rights education, that the human rights enforcement level in terms of standards, in terms of understanding, in terms of applying human rights to governance, we see that those standards being very low. Yet there is not sufficient money in terms of public education on human rights, in terms of training, in terms of capacity and infrastructure. It's not enough to be on ground in all of the states. We also need to be on ground as a commission of our country in a qualitative manner. So in rating this administration, human rights violations have been there. They've been horrible right from the days of the military. We have not made much improvement. The only thing is that we are coming to a better and a greater understanding and a consciousness that we need to make human rights the focus of governance. What else what's governance is about? What else is governance about, if not to provide the good things to citizens? And all of those good things are contained in Chapter 2 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and Chapter 4. Now, we have a challenge as a civil society organization, and we also have a challenge as a country, because we have some of the best human rights laws in the whole world. We are supposed to have the best human rights climate regime in the whole world. They are there on paper. So it's left for us to translate these ideals for the enjoyment of human rights. I must say this, please. Today is International Human Rights Day. One of the only few days we tell people positive stories about human rights, that human rights are meant to be enjoyed, not the negative stories we hear about human rights all through the year.
That was Tietie there. We're going to get back to both of you gentlemen, so we'll keep you on pause. We'll be back right after this short break.
Discussing World Human Rights Day, and with us right here in the studio is Tony Ojukwu, Executive Secretary of National Human Rights Commission, and Frank Tietie is our offsite guests, Arise News analysts. Thank you both, gentlemen, for staying with us. Frank, well, you did make a statement before we went on that break. I'd like Tony Ojukwu to respond or react to that a day like this is a day that we should be actually celebrating and saying, look, we have done well as far as human rights is concerned. Tony, you want to maybe, give us some cheering news about human rights, some of those that you have actually been able to action, maybe in court, or provide help for those who have come to you, needing it. What do you have to say about that? What are the challenges really in guaranteeing human rights for the average Nigerian?
Well, the human rights is a very encompassing thing. It is totally embracing, and it's like a big elephant. When you are looking at it from your own side, you only see from one side. But a lot of Nigerians, despite all the present challenges, it's sad every day. You hear stories of non-state actors, non-state armed groups that are killing people, that are burning people in buses, that are attacking villages here and there, that are killing people in their houses, and kidnapping school children and so on and so. It's very disheartening. In fact, they say in human rights, injury to one is injury to all. So it makes everybody sad. But at times we don't also celebrate the successes, because there are also some good stories that come about. Like I can tell you, even though we receive about 1 million complaints a year, we also have what we call success stories. People who approach the commission, write letters to thank the commission for the way the commission has helped them to get remedy. There are a lot of children whose parents have abandoned and have refused to pay their school fees. And when they come to the commission, the commission will help those women to get those children to get to school. We have more than 100,000, thank you messages from women whose families have been torn apart, and due to economic situations, their husbands have abandoned their responsibilities. And the commission has helped these children to get shelter over their head, because we compelled their parents to be able to provide them shelter. We also were able to compel the fathers to provide them necessaries, pay for their school fees, and so on and so forth. And these women and their children write back to the commission, thanking the commission for what it has done for them. So these are also success stories we celebrate. There are also a lot of people who, for one reason or the other, are in detention, and due to the intervention of the commission, they've gotten back their freedom. There are also people who have received compensation from the authorities because of human rights violations that have been committed against them, and they write back to the commission to thank the commission for what the commission has done for them. So it's not all bad stories all the way. The challenges are still there, they are still enormous, but it is very important to point out that it is not all bad news all the time.
Right. Not bad news all the time. I was to stay with you, Tony, something very important, but let me get in Tietie. More than 2 decades ago, Nigeria established the Human Rights Commission to address all these issues. We're talking about the myriads of them. But fast forward, 2021, we're about to enter 2022. Almost 1 million cases recorded and still counting. How far so far?
Oh, well, yes, that's a very good question. And in that case, we have not done too well. And that also goes back to the promise the president has made to support the National Human Rights Commission. Let it be known that one of the successes that has been recorded by the National Human Rights Commission has been under this Executive Secretary, Tony Ojukwu, SAN. By the way, one of the latest senior advocates of Nigeria. Now, in terms of accessibility, you can see that we are able, even those of us who are lawyers and civil society actors, are able to direct people to the National Human Rights Commission to seek redress, because we have it as a law. The National Human Rights Commission Act as amended now gives powers to the National Human Rights Commission to make determinations on complaints of human rights violations. That is, the Human Rights Commission can actually act as a high court to determine human rights complaints of human rights violations, and even award compensations. Now, when we look at it in that direction, and you find 1 million cases, 1 million complaints going to the National Human Rights Commission, the question is, does the National Human Rights Commission have the necessary resources to deal with 1 million complaints in 1 year. He had over 1 million complaints the previous year, over 1 million complaints the preceding year. No, so, and those of us who use the services, or who use the services and rely on the commission to do the work that we do, believe that the commission is seriously underfunded. It is underfunded. It cannot carry out sufficient human rights education so that there will be less violations. If there are less violations, there will be less complaints. And with the enormous number of complaints that the commission has, it requires so much resources to deal with them. That is, to have the council sitting in all of the 36 states, moving around, listening to complaints, listening to witnesses, and making determinations. To ask me, General Abacha set up the National Human Rights Commission in 1995. You can't take it away from our history. That it was under the military. But for goodness sake, would it then be that Nigeria was doing better in the days of the military than we are in the civil and democratic rule? It's a very difficult question to answer. But in my own mind, I think we have not really done well. But I believe that President Muhammadu Buhari has a golden opportunity in the remainder period of his administration to show to the world that the human rights approach indeed can turn the situation of Nigeria around. Nigerian citizens will be happier. They will have a sense that government is for them when human rights are placed first. And the first place to start in the National Human Rights Commission, where it will be empowered enough to exercise its statutory powers and also to show to the people that human rights are beyond civil and political rights, are beyond issues of torture or fair hearing, but they also have to do with clean water, clean air, jobs, good jobs, well-paying jobs, access to health, education, and social security. That is the key to the good life, and it comes by starting with the human rights approach.
All right, Frank Tietie, you just hit the nail on the head, because I mean, fella actually sang "They Won't Dash Me Human Rights." You know, human rights apparently is not even given. It
99
is,
standing.
It
is it 99 standing?
Tony Ojukwu,
that's
very
actually,
quickly.
That's actually.
No time.
All
right, we'll have to leave it there. We'll have to leave it there.
Yeah.
But let's say congratulations to Tony Ojukwu on your getting, of course, the senior advocate of Nigeria.
Yeah, he just in a way did that.
We needed to
but
do
we
that.
just had it.
All right, thank you so much for joining us, both of you gentlemen. Tony Ojukwu, Executive Secretary, National Human Rights Commission, and Frank Tietie, Arise News analyst.